Good evening, namaste, namaskar, सबके लिए, all the people who have gathered here for this very, very interesting webinar on a very new topic and a new subject. So thank you so much for being here and spending your precious time here. So let's get straight to the subject of the webinar today. We are going to talk about a very interesting subject, which is the blue zone and the epigenetics. What's the correlation between these two, topics? So I hope I'm sure the screen is visible. Just give me a thumbs up if it's visible. Yeah. Okay, great. So we're going to talk about epigenetics. Epigenetics का मतलब क्या है? And what is blue zone and what's a blue zone diet? So the text box, the comment box is on, so you can put your comments and questions if you have to during the webinar. So good morning to some people who have logged in all the way from USA, different parts of USA. Thank you so much for joining in. And, people who matter are here. So let's get started. So now, let me ask you very stupid regular questions that you all have been answering all this while. कि आपको बहुत बार पूछा रहेगा. So answer this question in the chat box if you can. How many of you want to live healthier? So when I say healthier, so you may be living healthy already, but then yes, I want you to live healthier than what you're living right now. So you can just just type me if you want to live healthier, or maybe you want me to assume that yes, everybody wants to live healthier. Okay. So the first question is yeah, healthier living. Yes. Okay. All right. The second, the very regular, stupid question that people always ask is, do you want to live happier? You may be already living happy, but then you want to live more happy, happier than what you are right now. So you can again type and then answer yes. Okay, you want to do that as well. But the third question that I want to ask you is, and I'm sure I've asked this many times and I've got some weird answers, is that how many of you want to live longer? So when we talk about longer, it's, obviously living longer, more number of years. So, whenever I ask this question, खास करके healthier, happier के लिए लोग आराम से जवाब दे देते हैं. But then when you ask, saying that, do you want to live longer? People have a, kind of a weird expression on their face. And if anybody asking this question to them, it gives an impression saying that, this guy is, up to something fraudulent or something that he cannot deliver, because people doubt that, living longer is not very easy. A lot of people tell us that already there is a lot of stress, there's a lot of tension, there's so much of happening in our life all around the clock. So we say that we want to live healthy, happy is fine, but not longer. एक बार चले जाएंगे तो आराम हो जाएगा. People actually have this kind of a reaction sometimes, maybe as a matter of a little lighter note. But on a serious note, if we really want to really look at this question, how many of you want to live longer? I think we need to pay very serious attention. And I want to tell you this, that if you really want to live healthier, happier, and longer, not just or longer, if you're wanting to live longer, this webinar definitely is for you. And I want you to pay very, very close attention, because I'm not here with a motivational, webinar. It's very informative based on the facts and science that is, going to be very beneficial to us. So जब हम लोग longer की बात करते हैं, when we are talking about longer, we are talking basically about life expectancy, lifespan. Okay, what is the lifespan of all of us human beings? So this also leads to another very, very hot topic today that we are discussing, is something called longevity. So, human longevity has been, has been a subject of a lot of, scientific research, and बहुत सारी चीजें इसमें हो रही है. And then, the video that I played in the beginning is of Dr. David Sinclair. David Sinclair is from the, Harvard University from USA. And then, it's a research university which talks and does research on the longevity of human beings. And he himself has been trying a lot of things, and then which he's been talking about. His book is very famous. I'll come to that a little while. So longevity is a subject that people are talking about, but they're not very sure कि किस तरीके से longevity को बढ़ाएं, how we expand our lifespan. When we were studying, when we were students in our primary school and high schools वगैरह, I think we all had this kind of general knowledge questions कि भाई a species का या its particular animal का lifespan क्या है. So we have studied all that. The longest living species could be wild tortoise, etc. So lifespan of animals has been a matter of study, research, and then we all understand that. But we are now going to today talk about the lifespan of human beings. So that is why this book written by David Sinclair is Why We Age. Now, in the video, if you have paid a little attention, he says aging is nothing, need not be considered as natural. कि मैं समय हूँ, समय किसी के लिए रुकता नहीं है, तो you get old and then one fine day inevitably there is a death. But that's something that he is challenging, and then he's saying aging is like a disease. Now, if you are able to treat a disease, he's saying that even aging can be treated. So that's the reason he's saying that it's not about anti-aging, but it's about longevity. So that's the term that he's using. So if you really look at life expectancy or longevity across the world of different human beings or people, citizens of various countries, you will see in the chart here, Pakistan is like 67, but then India is next with 70 years. So now, of course, there is some regional distribution of age factor also is there. People in different states in India have different life expectancy. People will also have, I'm talking about gender neutrality, because women comparatively live longer than men, of course. But, on an average at the national level, it is 70 years life expectancy if I'm an Indian citizen and living here. But if it's China and US, it's around 77 years. Of course, there are some different figures that you'll get on the internet, and they're all been posted at various time frame. But if you really look at a few more other countries, which are, you can say, are developed countries like UK, Canada, New Zealand, Switzerland, and Australia. So now from 70s, so they get into the 80s, and then it's 83, 84 years is the life expectancy of people, citizens living in that particular country. For example, if I'm living in Australia or Switzerland, I might live for 83 years, whereas since I'm an Indian citizen, I probably, my life expectancy is around 70 years. So now you see the disparity between these two lifespans of two different countries. So 13 saal ka difference hai when we are looking at few countries. But if we go a little further and then really look at what's happening with the human health and the lifespan of various countries across the world, so then I think we need to really look at what's the population right now of the world. कि दुनिया में आज कितने लोग जीते हैं? If you go to the website which which gives you the live data, so of course the number keeps increasing every moment. But right now the estimate is that there is close to 800 crores, 8,000 million people are living in the world right now. And every year we have 13 crores, 130 million babies, newborn babies, taking birth every year. So you can see the number of births that are happening every day. And then we also have deaths every year for various reasons, whether it was COVID-19 or a pandemic, which killed a lot of people together, or maybe a lot of other life-threatening diseases, or just the age factor. So there are 7 crores. So, but in essence, you'll see our population in the planet Earth is increasing by 8 crores, 80 million people every year. But जब हम लोग भारत की बात करते हैं, इंडिया की बात करते हैं, so in India we have a population estimated to be around 141 crores, 140 crores पकड़ लीजिए, and then we have 2.5 crores people, 25 million people take babies taking birth every year. हर साल 2.5 करोड़ बच्चे पैदा होते हैं इंडिया में, and almost nearly 1 crore of people. हालांकि this number has come down in the recent years. It's around between 85, 90, 95 lakhs के आसपास है. Every year the number changes. The life expectancy in India is growing. But if you see, around 1.5 crore से हमारा भी population बढ़ रहा है. So that means these are the number of people who are now taking, they're breathing in the planet Earth. I and you are all are a part of these numbers. But just look at this, that the life expectancy of all these people is very, very drastically different. There's a huge difference of as many as maybe around 15 to 20 years, depending on the country that we are all living in. So, just a very interesting factor is that the modern healthcare industry has drastically progressed. We are now talking about robotic, surgeries honge, telemedicine is coming, and so many progression that has happened. There are some new vaccines, new molecules that are being found out for various diseases earlier which were not treatable. Like, at the same time, look at the other side. The flip side of the reality is that the number of diseases have also dramatically increased. Number of diseases, technology बढ़ गई है healthcare industry में, इससे कम नहीं हुआ है. So we are now confronting new types of diseases or lifestyle conditions. Take for example insomnia. कई सालों पहले लोगों को नींद नहीं आती थी, ये बीमारी नहीं होती थी. People were not considering this as a condition that needs to be treated. Maybe people were a little bit of stress and then probably they had a disturbed sleep. But insomnia was never really considered as a lifestyle disorder or a disease. But today, insomnia is a treatable disease. A lot of people are, taking a lot of sleeping pills, and that has been also being misused a few times. So you can see this is happening, and people have a erratic lifestyle, and sleep patterns have completely changed. Whether it is because of the call centers or the BPOs or the social media that's invading our privacy, and people are probably not sleeping even after midnight. So ek ho gaya insomnia. Look at infertility for a disease or a condition. People today are willing to invest or spend. I wouldn't even say invest. People are willing to spend not lakhs, even crores of rupees just to have one offspring. And just imagine, it's a business couple having a lot of assets. They want their offspring and they don't mind spending crores of rupees because medically or clinically they probably are not able to, the wife or the expecting mother is not able to conceive. So we have new situations and new conditions because of the changed patterns. So if you really go back to our ancient scriptures, medical scripts like Ayurveda, for example, it actually talks about the human beings, human body can sustain for 120 years. 120 साल हम लोग जी सकते हैं. But look at what the government is saying on the other hand. So all the administrations across the world, but let's say specifically Bharat ki, India ki baat karenge. In the private sector, 58 years is where you retire. Retire. You are not no more useful to a corporate or a company that you're working with. अब आपको रिटायर कर दिया कि अभी आपका प्रायोरिटी है कि टेक केयर ऑफ योर हेल्थ, स्पेंड टाइम विद योर ग्रैंडचिल्ड्रन if you have, and then आराम करो. Your intellectual contribution, your physical contribution, and all the vast experience that you have in your practical life, वो बेकार जा रहा है because you don't really need it. Government sector में it could be 60 years. So 58, 60 years में अगर retirement की अगर हम लोग बात करते हैं, I feel that the life really starts after 50 because when we are born, we are not coming with we are not born with any instruction manual as to how to be happy, how to be healthy. We don't know how to be successful, how to manage our money. So all this is not there in our curriculum, the existing education curriculum that we have, or probably at least some of us who have studied already. Of course, the national education policy has come and then things might change, the curriculum might change. But ये सब ना होने की वजह से what we do is we actually do a lot of trial and error method, and trial error and method करते करते हम लोग गलतियां करते हैं, सीखते हैं, then we know what's right, what's wrong, and then somehow we feel that okay, now I have a little experience, I have matured enough, and then I've seen life. हम लोग बोलते हैं कि यार I've seen life, I know I've gone through a lot of things, and when we are ready to sort of live life, the government or the private companies say that you are retired. You're no more needed. You are a useless utility. So this is exactly what the hard reality is. So if you really look at the global population, we have the men living 70 years, 70 or 71 years, and women living, the good news is around 75 and more, 76 years. So on an average, it is 73.2 years is the human life expectancy, or the longevity, or the lifespan is what we can call. So the good news, if you're a female or a woman here, you tend to live 5 years more than the men. Now you know the secret of why probably you might know a few things thing or two better than the men as to how to live longer, because you have that innate ability and because of the physiology that women live longer. But if you really look at some of the top countries that the life expectancy कि वो country के citizen नागरिक कितने साल जीते हैं, you have countries like Hong Kong, Japan, Macau, Switzerland, of course, Singapore, and I've marked that in yellow because I'll come back to Singapore. It's very significant to the topic that we are talking today. And of course, countries like Italy, Spain, Australia, etc. So these are at the top 8 countries with a life expectancy of 85 years to around 83 or 84 years. मतलब 1-1.5 साल का ही फर्क है. So the life expectancy of the people living in that country, especially the citizens, inhabitants of that country, is far better. Now look at the world average, which is 73, and the top country is 85 plus. So almost 12 years ka difference hai. So if I am living in Hong Kong, I have a better chance, or rather a higher chance, of living 12 extra years. Now, how much will somebody pay to live 1 year extra, 5 years extra, or 10 years extra? Now, that's a very, very awkward, kind of a question, because how would we really know as to, where we can buy or how we can buy more years? We don't really have that kind of a guarantee from the medical world saying that you take my treatment, I'll ensure that you'll live 5 years or 10 years more. Everybody wishes and everybody hopes. लेकिन ऐसा कोई guaranteed medicines है नहीं है जिससे कि we all can experience, we can all have a certain number of years to our life. Now let's come to the Indian statistics, and this data says the Indian life expectancy is for men it's around 69-70 years, and women it's 72 years. So on an average of 70 years, which I told you. Now this is also far lesser than or rather slightly lesser than the global average. So that means our ranking in terms of lifespan, we are not even in the top 100. We are at 135th position. So iska matlab ye hai कि our healthcare infrastructure or the healthcare sector has tremendous scope to improve itself and help the citizens of this country to live longer. Okay, so this is the lifespan of the people. Now coming to specific states, well, of course, this data is from 2012 to 16 ka cycle hai. Now you will see smaller states like Kerala, Delhi, or even Jammu Kashmir, Punjab have higher life expectancy when we talk about state-wise in India. It's not just 70, 72, it's 75 on an average. I'm talking about the crores of millions of population that we have. But then if you see a large state like Uttar Pradesh is having 64.8%. So if you see the disparity between state-wise in different countries, so it either is depending on, the literacy level, because agar education zyada acha hai, I think your understanding about your own health also is enhanced. You will have better choices made in terms of your food habits, your sleeping patterns, and a lot of other allied things that keep you healthy. We are also looking at, the geographical area. Agar smaller state hai, it's better and easier to administer and provide facilities, whether it's healthcare or wellness facilities or any other, things that help people, expand their lifestyle. Lifespan. And we are also looking at medical facilities, the medical infrastructure, the healthcare sector, the health establishments like hospitals and nursing homes and clinics, the number of doctors, the patient and the doctor ratio, which is unhealthy in India. So uske bare mein bhi hum log dhyan de sakte hain. And then we also have the economic status. If people are well to do, the per capita income is better, I think they will have better food, better quality of food. They'll have nutritious food. They probably will be able to buy food which probably can nourish them better. लेकिन बहुत सारे ऐसी जगह है now, in India we are talking about caste surveys, economic surveys, and then you will see that people are living with a very small income that does not allow them to eat the kind of food that they desire to eat. They eat for hunger, मतलब कि भूख मिटाने के लिए वो खाते हैं, and this is exactly what's happened. So then the tradition and culture. India is a country of diverse cultures and ethnicity, food habits. You will see, variety of Indian foods. So the states which are sticking to their own traditional foods without really getting influenced by the fast foods and the so-called the processed foods have a better chance to live longer. So when we are talking today about blue zone diet, so this is the background that I want to create so that we exactly know why life expectancy is a matter that we need to be really talking about today. And then, of course, we are also looking at political narrative. What are the schemes, various welfare measures of the government in that particular state, what kind of an attention that they're giving for the primary health care and in the rural sector, etc. So ये बहुत सारे parameters के ऊपर the life expectancy is it varies. So if you are in different states here, you will see that the chances of we having a longer life, a better lifespan is higher because of the facilities that are available in that particular state. Now coming to the longevity, and then we really understand what is blue zones and blue zone ki diet kya hai, what are the things that they're doing. So your human lifespan starts with prenatal condition, and then infancy aati hai, early childhood, then there is a late childhood, then you are into adolescence period, you are either a child nor a youth, and then you have early adulthood, middle adulthood, and late adulthood. And after 65 years you are like an adult. You've seen life, आपने सब कुछ देखा है, you've seen all kinds of life cycle, and you feel that this is exactly how life works. So if you really look at the lifespan, go back to 1954, the lifespan was as low as 28-30 years. People were not surviving for longer except for a few people. This I'm talking about कि overall populations की अगर बात करेंगे. But if you see every 5 years, 6 years का अगर span में हम लोग देखेंगे, by the year 2014, we have 69, 72 years. So that means the lifespan has completely or drastically enhanced. People are now living longer. But unfortunately, people are living shorter and dying longer. So that means this is a concept that we speak in the wellness field, that people are there. People have facilities, medical facilities. They have a lot of supplements today. The lifestyle access is much better. There are better choices one can make. But in spite of that, people are not really enjoying because there are a lot of lifestyle disorders. बहुत सारे ऐसी चीजें हैं, they need to keep treating them. And there's another theory that says that average human life expectancy in the 19th century has drastically increased, but it is now stagnating. Average life expectancy across the world, universe करेंगे हम लोग, so it's around 80 years. So 120 years का जो आयुर्वेदा या अलग therapies का जो estimate है या kind of lifespan का expectation उनका है कि हाँ human body anatomy and physiology के through sustain कर सकता है. That's not really coming true. So there is a theory that says we probably may not have the number of years increasing exponentially the way it's been expressed here year-wise. But we are into genetics. Welocity Genetics is into the space of nutrigenomics. So when we talk about the innovations that are happening in the field of genetics, the kind of experiments that are that are happening right now, and we are historically living in a time where a lot of things are happening which you cannot even imagine. 20, 30 years before, we probably couldn't have imagined what the chat GPT or the artificial intelligence or the machine learning and a lot of other things that can come up in the future. So we don't even have an idea as to what's going to happen in the next 10, 15 years. So yahan pe, there are theories today which says that you can actually live up to 300 years, 500 years, and even 1,000 years. Now just imagine there's an old woman in 2017. She probably will be looking in 3017 like this, and she'll be like 1093 years old. Now it might sound like a mythology kind of a fairy tale story, but then the science claims that it is going to be true. So we are at a historically a very, very significant time frame. So uske बारे में and aging के बारे में I'll speak a little later in a few slides. So now, what are the factors that are deciding the lifespan of different people? We looked at the top countries. We looked at some regions in India. So, life expectancy difference. So as a genetics company, I would like to say that there are only two factors that determine, दो ही factors हैं that determine the lifespan of a particular person. Okay, irrespective of where they live. The first one is your genetics, your hereditary, अनुवंशी चीज है. The बहुत सारे जनरेशन से जो हम लोग कैरी कर रहे हैं. So that information is very, very critical for longevity. So that's one part. What's the other part? Yes, what probably could be the other aspect that can determine what the lifespan of all of us. कि क्या हो सकता है? I want you to throw your answers and then just in the text box and then see if you're guessing it right. And I'm sure most of you will get it right as to what is something, the other factor. Yeah, Raki, you're right. Yeah, your answer is right. So it's lifestyle. So Siddesh, you're right. Yeah, okay, Jitu, you're also right. So, all these factors I would put together in one word, and let's call it epigenetics. Epigenetics. So the layman word is lifestyle. हालांकि epigenetics का genetic के perspective में उसका definition थोड़ा सा अलग है, but then just for a real layman understanding, just to put it in a common simple English language, not a technical jargon. So let's call it epigenetics. Epigenetics is what? Genetics से ऊपर, genetics के अलावा, more than genetics. So a lot of things that have an impact on the genetics as well. So it could be your food, your timing, your exercise, and so many things. So now what percentage is determined by your genetics and what percentage is determined by your lifestyle? Now it depends on what are the factors that we are talking about. For example, if you're talking about intelligence, IQ is, they say, almost 32% is hereditary, and 68% is something that you acquire through various means of acquiring knowledge. You go to school, college, university, you read books, you attend seminars, you do so many other research, and then you acquire that knowledge. And then halaki, there is a difference between intelligence, IQ, and knowledge. They're not two different things. I mean, they're not the same thing. They're two different things. But of course, we in common day-to-day life, we interchangeably use it. So if you're looking at cancer as a disease for that matter, अगर कैंसर की हम लोग बात करेंगे तो hereditary factor could be just around 5 to 10%. 90% could be your lifestyle and the induced factors. That could be a long list of many things. So I would say genetics is almost 20% impact karta hai on our longevity or the lifespan, and the lifestyle, the choices that we make. And we'll come to what are the choices that can determine our lifespan. I would call it lifestyle choices or the epigenetics. They matter almost 80%. So in spite of having bad genetics or maybe some risk factors for not a longer life, I think the lifestyle choices, if they're very carefully done, with a lot of education, with a lot of scientific evidence to every choices that we are making, I think we can mitigate those kind of risk factors and expand our lifespan for a long time. Why? Simply because of this. Because genetics is just, it's like a loaded gun. The loaded gun in itself may not kill a person, but there has to be a trigger. And the trigger is our lifestyle. The choices that we are making on a day-to-day basis. While we are doing this webinar, I can hear, firecrackers happening. Now, that also is a choice. There are so many factors. There are some good things about those firecrackers, and there are so many adverse effects of that firecrackers. So, we've been talking about it. There have been some litigations. There has been mixed, reactions and stands people are taking on this subject. So coming to the topic is that genetics is one factor that determines the longevity or lifespan. But what really matters is our lifestyle. Now, genetics is not something that is in our hands, because when I was born, I did not really have control on my genetics. I was born to particular parents, father and mother. I had no choice. I couldn't choose my father, like Robert Kiyosaki says, he had a rich dad and a poor dad. So economically, you can have different dads. Politically, you can have another dad. In Bollywood, a lot of people have godfathers and godfather, all kinds of dads and, mentors. But biologically, we didn't really have a choice. So genetics, we had no control. But what we have control over is our lifestyle choices. That is very much in our hands. So what kind of commitment that we have to make the right choices, or what kind of a knowledge that we have, is very, very critical for our longevity. So genetics does matter, but not beyond a point. But it's very, very critical because your lifestyle choices have to be based on the genetic risk factors as well. So let's come back to what are the epigenetic factors. कि क्या-क्या चीजें हम लोग अपने कंट्रोल में कर सकते हैं, and then we straight away go and understand what's blue zone and what are the diets that they have. First, of course, is food. Food keeps us alive. Food keeps us nourished. Food allow us to do all kind of activities that we are able to do. So we have to be, the food has to be balanced food. We have heard this, we have studied this in the primary schooling or etc. But I think later we have not talked much about this. कि अगर हम लोग health and wellness industry से नहीं है, तो nutrition के बारे में बहुत ज़्यादा हम लोगों ने पढ़ाई नहीं की है, ध्यान नहीं दिया है, because we are eating well, we are eating the kind of food that we want. Today we have all kinds of food joints, processed food, ready mix, and everything. So it's easy to create food and consume food that can keep us growing horizontally more than nourishing us, and then taking care of every vital organ of our human body. Second, of course, is the kind of water that we drink. Firstly, the amount of water that we drink, and the quality of water that we drink. So it's advised or recommended that if you have water content that is strong and better in alkaline, is always better, so that you can get rid of a lot of acidic factors that are there in human body. Then we also need to have clean air. I just talked about firecrackers. Look at what's happening in Delhi right now. There is this odd even scheme already started. There's a lot of political furor. Even the Supreme Court is getting involved. There's this stubble burning that's happening in neighboring states, agricultural states. And interestingly, it is Mumbai, the commercial capital of India, which has beaten Delhi in terms of the air quality index. So, Mumbai is quite worst. There is a guideline yesterday by the government saying that don't move out in the morning for morning walk, because it will be more damaging than the benefits it can give you. So we are now living in this kind of situation. So this also is a key factor for our longevity, or for our lifespan. The kind of exercise that we should be doing. So we have to be doing specific exercises for different particular body parts. For example, if you want to do muscles, you have to definitely do weight training. You can't be going for a jogging or doing a yoga and expecting you to be become a bodybuilder. You don't become a bodybuilder with a yoga or a swimming. So you need to do particular exercise to take care of that particular body part. So exercise also has to be very critical. I mean, it's very clear. It has to be specific. We have seen what's happening after, especially COVID-19. A lot of people who had sudden cardiac arrest related diseases, and in many cases it has been fatal. And recently we saw कि अभी नवरात्रि हुआ in Gujarat, we saw a lot of increased number of cardiovascular conditions, CVDs, and people are getting treated. People collapsed and died. There was a 9th class student walks into a exam hall, collapses. 9th class student. We have never heard all this. That also is because of various factors. So we need to be doing exercise regularly. But I put everything else in the big factor segment called the modern lifestyle. Even nutrition, water intake, clean air, exercise, all this is a part of the modern lifestyle itself, epigenetics itself. But I would like to look at also sleep patterns, what time you're sleeping, what time you're eating, waking up. So it's not just enough to sleep for 7 or 8 hours, but what time you sleep and wake up also is as critical as sleeping for 7-8 hours. Look at our addictions today, apart from the alcohol and smoking, which are like two popular addictions. We have all kinds of addictions today. What is addiction? A simple definition is कि जो भी आप मतलब हिसाब के बाहर करते हो, uncontrolled होके करते हो, and you don't even realize that you're doing that in excess. Anything in excess is an addiction. It could be social media or watching too much of a TV, or even gossip could be an addiction. So all these things are impacting also the lifespan. Look at the stress that we have. Financial stress. Who doesn't have it? Okay, people are People have all kinds of expenses today. Everybody wants to have artificial lifestyle, which may or may not give that kind of happiness that a person is looking at. But people want to possess a lot of things, materialistic things, real estate, precious metals, all kinds of electronic gadgets. There was a Maham in Delhi for procuring an iPhone on the first day, and there was literally fights. Why would you go at 4 o'clock in the morning and then be in a queue to procure an iPhone 15? I mean, it's beyond logic. Okay, then of course, family, the relationship stress today. The number of divorces are increasing. The connections are getting more business oriented. There's a lot of plastic smiles going around. All that. Then of course, financial insecurity, which I told you, and also the environment. So all these factors, there are many things. So these are all, ये सभी factors हैं जिससे कि हमारी lifestyle में असर पड़ता है. And this is exactly what we're doing. So now there was a lot of research that was happening as to what's the right thing to do, what's the right time to sleep, what are the right food to eat, etc. And that is where Dan Butner is a researcher from US. Now he finds out, and then he and his team does a lot of research, and he then authors a book based on his finding, and that book is called The Blue Zones: The Secrets for Living Longer. I'm sure all of us would like to live longer. And in his book, if I make a small summary of his book, or probably look at his finding. So what he did is he found out that there are certain areas, there are certain zones in the world which he identified and his team identified, and they named it as the blue zones. So there are 5 zones that are being identified. So the 5 zones are the first is a place called Loma Linda from United States. Nicoya is a small island in Costa Rica. We have Sardinia in Italy. We have Icaria in Greece, and Okinawa in Japan. Now, why are they called blue zones? इसको blue zones का नाम क्यों दिया है? It's a very simple definition. The blue zones are regions or these zones where a higher than usual number of people, it's not just 1, 2, 5, 10 people. It's a considerable percentage of the population of that particular region and area is living much longer than the average lifespan. You just imagine, for example, let's say people from Surat are living like 100, 105, 110 years. So everybody in India would say that कि यार सूरत में क्या ऐसी अजीब चीज है या क्या ऐसे लोग करते हैं कि जिससे कि that city के लोग ज्यादा लंबी जीवन जीते हैं. So this was a subject of a lot of interest to the researchers, and they found out that these are the 5 areas that that are very important, and they studied their lifestyle practices, the epigenetic choices that people are making, and that is where this book is all about. So the book is about discovering the world's best practices in health and longevity. कि health के लिए क्या करना सही है. Now you attend a lot of webinars and a lot of videos on YouTube, etc. Everybody seems to be suggesting कि भाई ये करो तो ये होगा, ये करो तो ये होगा. Dark chocolates are good for you. You see a search and another video is saying dark chocolates are like full of caffeine. It's not good for you. You get confused. You don't really know what to do. Somebody says कि Ayurveda is good. Somebody says homeopathic is good. Somebody says कि instant result के लिए allopathic के अलावा कुछ भी नहीं है. So there are so many recommendations, so many prescriptions that we all have. So we are in a very confused state. So here, with a lot of fact finding, with a lot of research, they found out as to what are the practices that these people are having where they are living more than 100 years or even longer than that. So the best practices for health in longevity and putting them to work in our life. So this is the book written by Dan Butner. So there are some of the things that are represented again. All these people who lived more than 100 years. Now, if you really looked at the initial slides that we had, none of the countries is boasting about an average life span of 100 years. 85, 86 सबसे ज़्यादा है. On an average, it's around 80 years. But people in this region were actually living 100 years. And they were actually making up for those people, other people who are probably dying at a younger age of 40, 50, 60s. And now we know, we are in so many social groups, religious groups. So there's this news coming of various obituaries and everything. My interest many a times is to, look at the numbers, the age in the bracket. as to what is his age. You know, when somebody expires at the age of 80 plus, you feel that, okay, the person has lived a life. You feel sad for every death, of course. But ऐसा लगता है कि चलो ठीक है, it's okay, natural, age related. But when, you know, people die at a very young age, you know, prematured death, you would say, at the age of 30s and 40s and 50s, which has now become like common. So here, the people were living more than 100 years. And that's where they were called centenarians. Centenarians is, you know, they hit a century. Now there's a one-day World Cup going on, ODI, you know, men's cricket World Cup is going on. And if you hit a century, I mean, like, you become a hero. Just imagine hitting a century in our own personal life in terms of the number of years, not you know, biological years. I think it's, I think you need to understand certain secrets. So you know, if you can see your pictorially, they also give a lot of, you know, images of various foods and everything. So let's understand as to what is a blue zone diet. So, you know, being a genetics company, I want to tell you this, that food definitely changes your genes. Technically, it's not, gene doesn't change, but the gene regulation happens. You know, the expression of the gene can be switched on and switched off. So that means food can work as a very, very effective remedy or a medicine for certain conditions. तो वो अगर हमको राज पता है, वो सीक्रेट अगर हमको पता है as to what kind of food is suitable for my particular body, because I and you are not the same. You know, we are similar, but we are not the same. You know, we are so different in our physical traits, our emotional traits. You know, you might get, you know, you might be a very jovial person. I may be a very short-tempered person. You may be a happy-go-lucky person. I may be a very, you know, kadus person, and all kinds of emotional behavioral traits. So we are also different. How can the food be the same? For example, you know, yesterday I was speaking to one of our doctors, and he's saying that our food habits in India, for example, if you go down south to Kerala, and if you see the food habits, they're not the same exactly like, you know, what a Punjabi would eat. So you have South Indian cuisine, you have a Gujarati cuisine, a Maharashtrian cuisine, all that. But when it comes to medicine, let's say anacin, for example, you don't have a South Indian anacin or a Punjabi anacin or you know, Bengali anacin. You have one molecule, and that's being given to everybody. So where's the logic? If the food is so different and it suits that particular region, the medicine also has to be different, or even the food also has to be different for different individuals. So of course, you know, that's something we were talking about, pharmacogenomics. So pharmacogenomics is another very you know, intriguing subject. It is a growing subject of a lot of interest to medical world as to how we can create particular personalized medicine for a particular person. Right now, it's not economically feasible to do that. The pharma and the whatever nexus that we have will collapse, and people wouldn't really venture into it to make profits. But from a scientific perspective, yes, that has a lot of scope, and we probably will get there in a few years, but it's too early. Right now, the ecosystem of the healthcare system is working on generic molecules that are being given. And, you know, we have seen a lot of articles. I think I had forwarded one of the articles to some of the groups where there was a pharma company producing tablets and, you know, kind of medicine. And then they found out that it actually chuna tha. So chuna matlab वाकई में literally chuna लगा दिया. Anyway, so now coming to the blue zone diet. So, you know, you understood what are the blue zone diets. So there, once again, let's you know, quickly go through this. Is in Loma Linda in California, USA. We have Nicoya in Costa Rica and the South America. We have Sardinia in Italy, Icaria in Greece, and Okinawa in Japan. Now, their lifestyle choices, their epigenetic practices are actually making them live longer. Now, for example, let's look at Sardinia in Italy. Now, Italy is a you know, European country. So now you see they are consuming 47% whole grains. And in Italy, the whole grains primarily was, you know, grains was barley, and almost 26% dairy products. You know, it could be a lot of different dairy products like milk, curds, yogurt, and whatever. And then, you know, of course, they were consuming most common sources of their milk was sheep and goat's milk, not cow or buffalo milk. 12% vegetables, 4% legumes, 5% meat, fish, poultry, 3% added sugar as well, and 2% added fats, and 1% fruits. Now look at some very interesting factors. Almost, 73% is whole grains and dairy. So they were not vegans. Mind you, a lot of people will now recommend that, vegan karenge, Virat Kohli is a vegan. So, look at his fitness, 49 centuries, he might probably hit, another century and become the number one ODI century holder. All that can be fine. But look at here, they were also taking non-vegetarian food. So they were taking meat, they were taking fish, they are taking poultry as well. So, and then also look at the amount of fruits they were eating, only 1%. Now, we all recommend that, we need to be eating a lot of fruits. Now, this is for a country and a zone of Sardinia of Italy. Now, we cannot blindly follow this and say that, no, this is what they did it in Italy, so let's do it. No, we are not Italians, we are Indians or probably, any other nationality. So, blind imitation will not work. We need to really personalize. And they also were taking sugars, added sugars, the processed sugars, which we now consider is the big issue right now. So if you really look at, there are some things that they were doing right. They based on the zone that they were in, they were actually taking whole grains and dairy products. But predominantly you would see that whether they were vegetarians or non-vegetarians, well, you can say that they were non-vegetarians also. But look at the percentage of non-vegetarian food consumption. It's less than 5%. So they were 95% vegetarians. And of course, they also added added sugars and so many other things. So it was a very natural, evolving, kind of a food percentage of various, factors. Let's look at what's happening in California, USA. Now, that's a different continent altogether, not Italy or not, European countries. So now here you see they were taking 33% vegetables and for a surprise, 27% fruits. So that's almost what, 60% vegetables and fruits. So now in Italy, we saw that only 1% of fruits. So 12% legumes and soy, 10% dairy products. So the percentage of dairy products now is lesser here. So once again, these were also taking 4% of meat and poultry. So that means they were also not vegetarians. They were also non-vegetarians, but predominantly vegetarian plant sources is what they had. And of course, they used to consume fish as well, but very low on that. And 2% nuts and seeds. So this is another pattern the research team found out. Okay, so this is the second thing. Now let's look at what's happening in Japan. Now Japan is a country of so many wellness theories and so many health practices. One of the longest living population. So this concept of ikigai, I'm sure you must have heard this concept and attended webinars on this or attended seminars on this. This is a management subject. When we're talking about our purpose in life, etc. So now ikigai, if you really quickly get into it, if you really look at, okay, this is my vision, my mission of my life, this is the occasion of my life. So, I'm contributing to the entire world, what it needs. Agar ye philosophy mein jayenge, so you might probably get into a zone where you're saying there's a lot of excitement, but there is a little bit of complacency and sense of uncertainty. You're not sure if you're doing everything right. There could be this kind of a zone that you can get in. If you really look at, okay, mera occasion ye hai ki, like I want to entertain the whole world and then I become like an actor or a singer, or maybe I want to give good health to the population of the world or, the people around in my area. So iske liye I become a medical doctor. So that's my profession and what you can be paid for. So it also gives you, enough economic stability and you may be comfortable, but feeling emptiness. You will feel that ki paisa bana raha hu, I'm doing well, but then there is still something missing. There are some other factors of life also that you need to be looking at. So look at the other aspect that, if you have a profession and passion, coming together and you're doing what you're good at. For example, Lata Mangeshkar was told that you become a Kathak dancer by her parents, forced into, that profession. She probably still would have become a good dancer, but then she wouldn't have been happy. Probably she wouldn't have been enjoying because that's not her passion. It became probably her profession. In that case, you may be satisfied, but you're feeling that you're not, feeling of usefulness bhi aa sakta hai. But if you're doing, your passion with a lot of mission, and then you're doing what you love, you may be having delightful and you may be, having fullness, but you may not be paid for it. You might feel that main bahut kuch kar raha hu, but I'm not paid for it. So a combination of everything in balance can then get into a zone of ikigai. And this concept is like, you live for a purpose, you live for a particular mission, for a cause, for a crusade in your life. So iski wajah se, this, a balanced factor about life also is contributing to the well-being, fitness, better sleep factors, and overall well-being of a human being. And that also is considered as one of the observations in the blue zone areas of Okinawa, Japan. So, people in Japan, one of my friends who often visits there because of business purposes, he says that people walk a lot there. And if you really miss a place right now, and this I'm talking about a few years back, that, if you really want a new address to reach to, they will actually hold your hand almost, and then, take you and then walk along with you. And they show that place and then, stop there. So they like walking, and they use less vehicles. Things may have changed right now. So this is something that's there. So now, putting a few things together of Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, and of Loma Linda of United States. So they found that they have healthy social circle. They eat a lot of nuts here in United States. In Okinawa, there's no time urgency, so they're quite relaxed, cool, calm, collected. They don't do a lot of firefighting. They take it easy. They plan well. Likability, they use turmeric a lot. And Sardinia, they say they're using a lot of legumes, beans, high polyphenol wine they used to consume because of the weather there, and it's quite a cold country, and so many other factors. But what really came up, which is very common, that everybody was practicing, is their relationship or the association or the tie-up or the kind of the importance they give to their families. Now, you'll be surprised saying that this is expanding the lifespan of people. Having a very closed family relationship without many disputes, whether it's financial relationship, is expanding the lifespan by almost 7 years. No smoking. Of course, it's a bad addiction. I don't really understand why people smoke. The lungs go for a toss. Plant-heavy diet. So all the 5 blue zones were very heavy on plant kingdom, plant diets. Okay, so they were very high rich fiber rich diet that they had. Constant but moderate physical activity. They were not like getting into the treadmill and then doing very intensive activities or weightlifting or something like that, but they were doing moderate activity like walking, jogging, or maybe yoga or similar, but doing it very constantly on a regular basis, almost on a daily basis. A lot of social engagement. We इसको हम लोग नजरअंदाज करते हैं, saying that, look, today so much of a nuclear family, self-centeredness has come, selfishness has come, that people don't really look at that, your important, the importance of the society as an ecosystem for our own well-being, our own, longevity. And then, of course, legumes. So these were the common things that were found out. So just to make a summary of what they did is, let's say, for example, this is a Japanese diet. Look at a few factors here. And if you pay close attention to the screen here, you will see, first of all, look at the portion size. You will see the vessel size as well. They're quite small. It's like a quarter plate. So portion size is small. You'll see a lot of variety of food. It's not that they're eating one food. For example, India में या office goers जो भी हैं, जितने भी office goers हैं जो tiffin लेके जाते हैं, especially I'm from Mumbai, so I can talk about what's happening in this in the tiffins. What do the people really eat? They eat 2 or 3 chapatis and a sabzi. Now, that's something that they eat almost 25 days of their office work. That's tiffin, lunch box hai. And then they carry a very small lunch box. So that only mitigates hunger. Just tell me what kind of nourishment that it gives, what kind of macronutrients, micronutrient, vitamins, and everything it has. It has very, very less nutrients. So there's no variety there. It's the same food that being consumed day in and day out. Look at the different colors. And of course, there is a science of we eating different foods of different colors. So we'll not get into the details. And then also look at the source of the food. It's more or less is vegetarian, plant-based food. So this is something that the blue zone people are practicing. Now, there's another very interesting concept called the life radius. 90% of the time, हम लोग हमारे घर में रहते हैं, घर से ज्यादा थोड़ा दूर भी जाएंगे, we probably travel 90% of the time in almost 5 kilometers radius, most of the time. Unless, of course, we are like business people, with a heavy travel. So almost 90% of the time, what are the places that we really visit? Just look at the circumference, radius of our movement. We are either at home, या तो हम लोग कोई social networks में जाते हैं कि we go to the schools or religious places, or we go on some purpose with volunteering करते हैं, या तो हम लोग दुकान में जाते हैं, बाजार में जाते हैं, मार्केट जाते हैं, malls जाते हैं. And we don't go to a mall to buy a grocery shop. We don't travel 30, 40, 50 kilometers. We go a nearby place. And we go to offices, हमारे दुकान, shops, offices, workplaces in general. And we go to restaurants for eating out, tea, coffee पीने के लिए, snacks के लिए, dinners के लिए, birthday parties के लिए. We go to a nearby place. And then we probably visit schools and religious places like mandir gaye, masjid gaye, church gaye, or gurudwara gaye, etc. So all these are the things that we are doing, and then we are eating almost the same food the entire day. So this is the life radius. And just imagine ki if you are not paying attention to these things, that is indirectly is causing our ill health to all of us, mentally, physically, and so many other things. So not having empathy towards all these factors, let's say our children are studying in a school and we don't really care about how the school is functioning, what's really happening there, what kind of activities are doing. So our involvement is very limited. Our involvement is limited. We send them to the coaching classes, we send them to online classes, Byju's, this and that. So we spend money, but then there is no connection there. So that's missing. And that also is causing lifestyle related diseases, and then ultimately causing problems with the lifespan. So as a summary, blue zone, jo 5 zones hai, which I mentioned to you earlier, they came out with a theory saying that there are 9 factors, and they called it blue zone power 9. And I want you to pay attention to this. Ki agar ye hum log follow karenge, and of course not blindly, I'll come to the other part also, because we are a genetics based company. We provide gene based solutions. I'll come to it. But let's quickly understand what are those 9 factors. So are you ready? Yes. Then let's look at. First is move naturally. So that means moving without thinking about it. You're not planning too much. Basically, it talks about physical activities, moving naturally. You're walking a lot. Just imagine that today for half a kilometer, 1 kilometer, we are booking Ola, Uber, or we want 2-wheelers, 4-wheelers. People are very, very reluctant to walk. People, today, what's really killing people is this sitting job. People who are sitting more than 6 hours, 7 hours every day, either in their workplace or at home, etc. Their lifespan is coming down by almost 10 to 12 years. So that means just imagine that we are sitting, and हम लोग बोलते हैं कि बैठे हैं, हम लोग आराम है. आराम नहीं है. We are cutting down almost 8, 10, 12 years of our lifespan only by sitting. So that means we need to be moving a lot, walking all the time. And today we have gadgets, electronic gadgets, actually tell you the number of steps that you're walking. You also have water reminders and all other things, but you have 10,000 steps is being propagated ki isko karna zaruri hai. Lately, people are now talking about not even 10,000. Even if you're doing 5,000 steps, going stairs instead of taking lifts, all this is contributing to not just your well-being, but also the lifespan by a few years. Just imagine. So this is the first one, is move naturally. So as far as possible, we need to find ways. मतलब बहाना चाहिए हमको कि चलने का, कि ठीक है मैं आके आपको मिलता हूँ, or not taking vehicles for short distance. The second one is 80% rule, which is basically about portion size. Ki how much you eat. What you is a different subject. Ki wo gene based diet hai, and you'll have all kinds of diets today. You have keto diet, your paleo diet, you have the carbs rich diet, protein rich diet, and whatnot. Everything is there. You have intermittent fasting, etc. But that is more about what you're eating. But here, whenever you're eating, you need to be eating at a regular time and eating only 80% of your stomach capacity. और ये तो आयुर्वेदा में भी बोला है कि divide your stomach into 3 parts. मतलब ऐसे literally मत करो, imaginary. And then you have 33%. One part is your solid foods, 33% is water or liquid food, and 33% को खाली छोड़ दो, so that your digestion is good and then your satiety levels are really good. So that means don't overeat. Many a times we have this feeling saying that कि order किया है तो अभी खाना ही पड़ेगा, नहीं तो waste हो जाएगा. और waste के चक्कर में you are actually damaging and actually cutting down the number of years of our life. This is impacting the longevity and lifespan of our life. Third, of course, is the right tribe, surrounding yourself with a healthy social circle. So that means to have genuine friends. Right now we have colleagues, we have business friends. वो मतलब के लोग होते हैं कि जब तक उनसे फायदा है वी आर फ्रेंड्स, जब तक उनसे फायदा नहीं है, एंड वी आर इकोनॉमी के बारे में जब भी बात करते हैं, फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी के बारे में बात करते हैं, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट assets and liabilities. So our friends also can be assets to us, but at the same time, sometimes they can be also liabilities. So we get rid of them because liabilities ko hatana hai. So what's really happening is that even people become, commodities. People become commodities, and that's the reason we have the very less genuine connections. Most of them are plastic smiles, artificial, relationships. Matlab ki baatein hain. There are so many Bollywood songs also on this. Ki, matlab ki duniya and all that. So we are very commercially connected with each other. Fayda hai to tab tak hai. There is a saying in English that when you are successful, there are plenty, but then when you are in distress, not even 1 in 20. So to log bhag jate hain because usse fayda nahi. And this we have seen in KBC reality show also, that when people won prizes, everybody कि उनका वो पुराना कनेक्शन की नहीं, वो हम लोग साथ में पढ़ते थे, हम लोग इधर कलीग्स थे, तो हम दोस्त थे and all that, and when they spend their money they run away. And there are cases where people have become bankrupt after even winning crores of rupees, not just in KBC and so many other lotteries and everything. So the friends have to be very, very genuine. So yeah, there are some comments, I'll come to it, Dr. Arora. So yeah, so there are right tribes, so we need to have genuine friends and genuine connections. We can't count more than handful of people whom we cherish throughout our life. Our friends keep changing. So that's something that was found in Blue Zone, that they had lifelong connections, whether it's their spouse, whether their relatives, or genuine neighbors or community friends. The next important thing is, of course, I was going horizontally. The next thing is here is purpose, which is ikigai, nothing but ikigai. Ikigai is कि फाइंडिंग कि भाई हम लोग इस दुनिया में आए क्यों है क्या. ऑफ कोर्स वी कैन गिव अ वेरी फिलोसॉफिकल जवाब कि सेइंग दैट यार मेरा चॉइस ही नहीं था, मैं आ गया हूं. बट आने के बाद में व्हाट इज आवर पर्पस, इसमें थोड़ा स्पिरिचुअलिटी भी है. वी नीड टू फाइंड आउट एज टू व्हाट इज माय यूज फॉर, ऑफ कोर्स नॉट माई सेल्फ बट ऑल्सो टू अदर पीपल. सो मेकिंग अ डिफरेंस, दूसरों की जिंदगी में परिवर्तन लेके आना, दूसरों की जिंदगी में फर्क लेके आना, टू मेक अ डिफरेंस. So I think we need to be contributing there. So that's also a cause that we need to be taking up. So a lot of social cause. So the ikigai ko humko find out karna as to what is my ikigai, what's my purpose of my life, what do I like doing, what gives me satisfaction. So that not only gives contribution to the society and people around you, in turn it actually enhances your lifespan. So all of us need to find out our ikigai. Then, of course, plant slant is, I've already explained, is that plant kingdom से ज़्यादातर आपका food आना ज़रूरी है. It is very rich in all the macronutrients, micronutrients, and there are foods which will give you all this. We need not really say that vitamin B12 has to come from animal sources alone. There are enough foods which are giving vitamin B12 in the in the plant kingdom as well. So we can find those vegetarian sources majority. That does not mean that you can denounce a person who is non-vegetarian. You can consume, there is no issue, but it has to be in moderation because it also has its own limitations, and depending on the region that we are living in. Of course, now when we are talking about we are living in India, we cannot be simply saying, okay, what Italians used to do, so let's do this. No, that's a different region. The climate there is different. It's a cold country, so they probably must be consuming wine. It doesn't really mean that we need to be starting consuming wine exactly the next day. So yeah, so Naval, thank you so much. Adoption of ikigai a year ago transformed my life and better than my peers. So exactly, so finding the purpose. Now I had very fond memories of discussing that with you in Delhi. Okay, so then we have the loved ones first. Who's your family? I mean, who's your loved ones is your family. वो बोलते हैं कि I mean you can do all kinds of cons, financial, you're not doing well, but your family always supports you. Even if when they know that you've done wrong, आपने गलत किया है, they'll still support you because your relationship with your family members, our parents, it's unconditional. Our spouse, our children, our siblings, yes, sabhi hai. So the family is the most revered place for blue zone citizens who were living more than 100 years. They were centenarians. So for all of us to increase the lifespan and longevity, this is the family is really, really important. And then, of course, downshift. Downshift is finding moments to decompress, rest lena. You have to take a rest. A lot of stress busters. You can do karaoke singing, or you can do a kind of watch a comedy show, or you can do meditation, or you can do probably go to a musical night, or something that relaxes you, or simply do meditation, or puja part karna, getting into religious activities, spiritual activities. So everything where you actually give yourself your time, and then de-stress yourself. आज हम लोग डिजिटल डिटॉक्सिफिकेशन की बात कर रहे हैं कि ऑन नो व्हाट्सएप, नो इंस्टाग्राम फॉर 2 days, 3 days, or a week. But okay, that's a good beginning, but then we can do this on a day-to-day basis. So next, of course, there is wine at 5. So now this is again region centric. So this was done in Italy, Sardinia, region mein. Does not mean that we need to be consuming this. For us in India, of course, we are not a wine drinking country per se. Of course, data might reveal something different. But I think more or less our complexion is not wine drinking country. So we can probably take a lot of other concoctions in Ayurveda. कुछ काढ़ा पी सकते हैं, कषाय है, हमारे बहुत सारे और herbal चीजें हैं, or simply drink something which is non-caffeine, non-toxic, and nutritious. There are so many things. We can have buttermilk and so many things, but on a regular basis, on a daily basis almost, and making a part of it on a long-term basis. And next is the last one is your sense of belongingness. Belongingness means finding a faith-based community. Faith-based community need not be a religious community alone. Like a spirituality community. For example, in India, I can talk about ISKCON. I think they're doing an amazing job. Apart from the spirituality and Krishna consciousness, they're also recommending, they're doing a lot of social work in terms of medical, in terms of so many other things. Art of living it's giving so many things. Patanjali, for that matter, popularized yoga and so many contributions. So, Brahma Kumaris. So there are so many platforms where we can contribute. This could be having a connotation of some religious or spirituality, but there are so many other social organizations, fighting for the cause of women, fighting for the cause of street children. There are so many old age homes which are going. So we need to engage ourselves with the okay. Yeah, okay. So there's one Sky. Okay, so I'll look into your comment later. So this is exactly what. So right now, so let's make a summary of what the nine strategies of blue zone diets are. A is that move naturally, तो आपको काफी कुछ चलना है, physical activities करना है. 2 is purpose, find out the ikigai. Downshift, relax करना है, stress buster करना है. Then 80% rule is don't overeat. जगह रखो, 20% खाली रखो, so that your digestion microbiome, gut microbiome is very healthy, and your nutrition absorption is really very, very robust. And then consume foods from plant kingdom. ज़्यादा करना है does not mean that you should not be consuming dairy products also. You're non-vegetarian, you're free to do that, but the quantity and the frequency of that has to be less. And then consume a certain liquid juices or wellness drinks or kadas or something like that. I wouldn't recommend drinking wine. Of course, they say port wine primarily because it gives you this resveratrol, but resveratrol can also be found in many other red colored fruits and vegetables like beetroot, or maybe red grapes, black grapes. So all these things. So there are other alternative things. So that's our specialty at Velocity Genetics. Will recommend those foods when you take our services. And of course, right tribe, the social community feeling, and then loved ones first, your family, and then of course belongingness is like your social contribution, your engagement with some or the other group. So friends, this is exactly what it is. So what you need to do is, if you're talking about a blue zone diet, the food guidelines has to be on a monthly basis. You can have maybe the non-vegetarian food, etc. So on a monthly basis. Don't say that, I'm eating daily or दिन में 2 बार 3 बार खाता हूँ. ठीक है, महीने में 1 बार 2 बार खाता हूँ. So monthly basis. So you do this. Reduce dairy products as well, because that's also a recommendation. But on a weekly basis, you need to slash sugar, especially added sugar is a big, another pandemic that might trigger a lot of diabetic patients and so many other allied diseases. Eliminate eggs. It definitely is a source of proteins on a day-to-day basis, but that come from animal kingdom, and you can get a similar amount of protein that you require for your growth, maintenance, and functioning of all the organs at an optimum level, also from the plant kingdom. So isko prefer kare and go easy on fish. So you can eat fish. Doesn't mean if you are a non-vegetarian, of course, if you're a vegetarian, I'm not recommending that you need to be eating this, but you can reduce the quantity because you want to have some fun with your taste buds and unko satisfy karna hai. ठीक है, you do it, but the number of the servings per month have to be coming down. That could be at a weekly level, but on a daily level, of course, 95 to 100% plant-based food habits or diet hum log follow karenge, especially with whole grains and then beans, and then drinking enough water, good quality of water, and seeds and nuts and everything. So we give that in the diet plan to our clients. So this is again a summary of Power 9. So I want you to really understand this 9, and these are the actually secrets of centenarians in the blue zone areas. Now, all these good things which they have practiced for years, which are giving them credible results, are being adopted across the world. But there is a twist. The twist, of course, these are the blue zone Power 9. So, this is the same thing. So now the question is, I'll take another 10 minutes, a few minutes to, get to the subject now. The other part of this subject is, we understood what is the blue zones and what are the blue zone diets, what are their preferences, what are the best practices that they had. So in the world, till now, they have identified 5 blue zones. But surprise, surprise, this is Singapore. Singapore is now considered the 6th blue zone, and it is actually not a natural blue zone, but it is actually a manufactured blue zone. The reason why it's called a manufactured blue zone is because the government there has constructed the infrastructure of that country in such a way that people don't take vehicles for short distances. They'll have to walk. They have no route there where the 2-wheelers, 4-wheelers go. They'll have to walk. And of course, I've been to Singapore, and then I've seen people walking, and they're like, quite fit. So, this is the 6th blue zone in the making, or it's already there. And the life expectancy there has drastically increased in the last few years. Ab sawal ye hai कि where do we go and settle? The 5 blue zones, or we all migrate to Singapore and wahan hum log karenge so that we live longer? Well, it's not really practically possible. People are not moving from Gaza, where there are rockets bombing and happening, because people are traditionally accustomed to stay in that particular place, traditionally, historically, for various reasons. Now, unless and until you are working in some different countries and you're settled, for example, many people from India will go to US or Canada, a lot of European countries, it's fine. But by going and settling in that countries doesn't change your genetic information. Your genes still are Indians. Your genetic information is still the same. So you definitely will have to pay extra attention to your epigenetics, because you're now dealing with one more a kind of an obstacle, that is change environment, and it may not really suit to everybody. So coming to what I said earlier is that, how long, lifespan ki baat kar rahe hain hum log, longevity ki baat kar rahe hain, and how we can live longer. So what really is the word aging? A lot of people now started saying that it's not anti-aging. Anti-aging is becomes like, it's a little outdated concept. It's actually called healthy aging. Age to hona hi hai, but then you'll have to age gracefully without really having a lot of bumps on the way. So aging is what? It's a lifelong accumulation of damage to the tissues, cells, and molecules of the body that occurs as an intrinsic side effect of the body's normal operation. So any gadget will also have a expiry date, whether it's your mobile phone or 2-wheeler or 4-wheeler, everything, anything that works on some mechanics, under the physics law will have some expiry date. It will not work. or the technology will get updated. As far as human beings are concerned, the body can also innate ability hai uski to tolerate some damage, but too much of it causes disease and disability. So body cannot sustain so much of a damage, and that's the reason a lot of people today at the age of 45, they look like 60. I was attending a growth summit in Mumbai, and a person sitting next to me, I thought probably must be 60, 65, and then he says that I'm 47, and then we got engaged ourselves with some genetics related talk, and he decided to do his genetic testing as well. So now question is, what do we do? Blue zone हमको पता है, theory पता है कि यहाँ ये हो रहा है. These are the best practices. So what should I be practicing? What's my diet? And that's where Velocity Genetics says, crack your genetic code, because in your lifespan and longevity, 20% genetic impact also is there. It could be more in some areas, but on an average, I'm saying 20% should be your genetic mapping, genetic risk factors. Based on that, your epigenetic choices have to be very, very specific, because you are not me, I am not you. We are all individuals, we are all unique. हमारे thumbnail अगर मैच नहीं होते हैं, उसके ऊपर करोड़ों की जायदाद प्रॉपर्टी any affidavit I can accept, और मैं मेरा thumbnail दे सकता हूँ. So that means I'm sure that I'm unique. It cannot be copied by anybody else. So here is an opportunity for all of us to know our body well and take control of our health. Just imagine you buy a new BMW or a Jaguar or a Mercedes, and your speedometer says that you have 240 kilometers per hour speed में चला सकते हो. Now in India, I don't think there is any highway or even a runway of a airport where you can actually drive at that speed. I don't really know why they have that kind of speedometers. I think if there are so many signboards on the highway saying you can't drive beyond 60 or 80 or 100, I think our car makers are insane to actually give us 240 speed, because increasing the speed of a car doesn't take much of a effort. It's just that you need to press the accelerator, and the car zooms in 240, 140, 160, 180. But the question is that, are you able to control the speed? Do you have the infrastructure? So much of a traffic, and then you'll bang people. And then we saw yesterday a Delhi bus banged into so many people, and so many accidents that are happening by speeding. Speeding is not the wise thing. Controlling the vehicle is the wisest thing. So that's the reason genetic testing actually helps us as to what are the things that we need to control. Because we can go and then build muscles, but then at the end we'll feel that that's only one aspect of our physical fitness. There are so many other things that we are missing. So if you do a genetic testing and genetic sequencing, and that technology is now available, and if you're able to increase your lifespan, your longevity by 5 years, by 10 years, by 15 years, tell me how much you are willing to pay. Now that question may be very irrelevant right now. Abhi hum log ye puchenge, it looks like, oh, it's a commercial, tone. But just imagine a person who is, almost in the ICU and in the deathbed, and then is certain to lose his life. And suddenly there's somebody who says, okay, look, I've got a magic pill. I've got a solution that you can live in the next 10 years. How much that patient will be able to pay? I'm sure even the poorest person will pay a considerable amount of money, because life is only once and life is precious. So that's the reason, taking clues from the blue zone, I want to tell you that, it's actually, there are so many books that are written. So the epigenetics, or the lifestyle choices that we all make, are absolutely important. Look at the book which says Human Epigenetics, How Science Works. And interestingly, you will get this book also by Judith, who says, you are what your grandparents ate. मतलब आपके दादा दादी ने जो खाया था, उसके ऊपर उनके genetics आपके father को, mother को गए हैं, and then we are there and we are passing on. So it's a genetic thing. So what they ate actually is having an impact on us as well. So today we are talking about not this diet or that diet. I'm talking about only one diet, that is your gene-based personalized diet, which is unique. So how many types of diets we can create? We can create 800 crores different diets for every individual. Of course, 95% could be the same, but that subtle difference of 1 or 2% is what creates the magic. And how do we create that? Well, we can create through a genetic mapping, DNA sequencing. So, of course, this science is a relatively new. People are still into that race of saying that ठीक है, सर दर्द भी हो रहा है तो सुपर स्पेशलिस्ट को देखेंगे, we'll pop up all kinds of pills and capsules and tablets, and then we feel good. So that's a instant relief, and then you're good to go. You're good to travel, take a flight, go to office, do all kinds of work, dance in the garba, or maybe marriage or a birthday party. You're fine. But what happens is that we cut down the number of years in our longevity. So the genetic science says that in spite of, there is a theory saying that the longevity, lifespan is stagnated. Here the genetics is saying that it's possible that people can live up to 500 years, people can live up to 1,000 years. And who is saying this? Well, you won't believe me, but then Google is saying this. I mean, of course, Google is now diversified into electric cars and driverless cars and so many other technological advancements. So Google says humans could live for 500 years, and it's already investing in firms hoping to extend our lives fivefold. So it's not about Shatayu nahi hai. It's not 100 or centenaries anymore. We will be probably living 500 years. And it's going to happen in the next 10, 15, 20 years. So stay tuned. If you're lucky, probably I think we can benefit. So this is Aubrey de Grey, who is a scientist who says humans can live for 1,000 years. And there's a lot of research going on. And they're finding out as to why the body is aging. And if you're treating aging as a disease and then finding solutions, of course, your body should not be aging and you should be fit enough. So this is Craig Venter. Craig Venter is the first person who was sequenced completely after the Human Genome Project in 2003 in the USA. And his project, Longevity, Human Longevity, raises more than 220 million. So there's a lot of investment credible companies are doing in this research of enhancing the longevity, etc. So friends, what we, as a bottom line, what we need to understand is that we need to understand ourselves scientifically, not hearsay, कि भाई ये खाओ ये होगा, तुलसी ले लो ये होगा, अश्वगंधा ले लो ये होगा. These are all good, but they're all random suggestions. You can't have the patience, or I don't have that kind of a time frame where you can do a lot of trial and error methods and then finally say that, oh, this is not working for me and that's not working for me. You can't be relying on a hearsay. You need to rely on science, rely on the research. So what really matters to have longevity also is immunity. And we have understood the importance of that during COVID-19. People could survive if the immunity was strong, and people, irrespective of their economic strength, could not survive if the immunity was not strong. So it's very, very important. So just to tell you, for the people who are listening to this kind of a webinar from Welocity Genetics for the first time, we are Welocity Genetics. We are the pioneers and market leaders in nutrigenomics in India. What we do is predictive genetic sequencing. And we also have an institute called Welocity Institute of Genomics, Nutrition and Entrepreneurship Training. So you have an opportunity to understand the world of genetics, the world of nutrition, and also genomic wellness